Thugs robbed a homeless beggar and mocked his dog, unaware it was Keanu Reeves. A group of ruthless thugs thought they were robbing just another homeless man of his last few belongings. Little did they know the person they targeted, and whose dog they disrespected, was none other than Keanu Reeves. He had been waiting for his train, hoping to get home after a long day of filming, when the thugs approached, thinking they'd found an easy target. Stick around to see how this confrontation took an unexpected turn. You won't want to miss this one. As the bustling streets began to quiet and the energy of the day faded, Keanu Reeves found himself at the start of a different kind of night. Exiting the movie studio, he took a deep breath of the crisp New York City evening air. Dressed in deliberately casual clothes, torn jeans that had seen better days, a loose-fitting denim jacket, and an old baseball cap pulled low over his face, he was aiming to blend in with the crowd, avoiding any unnecessary attention. Beside him trotted Andy, a beagle puppy with floppy ears and soulful eyes, wagging his tail with uncontainable excitement. Andy had been assigned to Keanu by the film's animal trainer to help them bond before filming some key scenes for John Wick. Bringing the little pup home for a few days had been intended as a temporary arrangement, but it was already proving to be far more meaningful than Keanu had expected. As they walked, Keanu couldn't help but smile at Andy's enthusiasm for every sight and smell. In just a short time, the bond between them had grown visible. Andy looked up at him with trusting eyes, and Keanu felt an unexpected sense of responsibility for the tiny creature, one that went beyond the requirements of his role. The two made their way to the 14th Street Union Square subway station, where the late-night crowd was beginning to thin. Descending the stairs, the fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows on the concrete walls, creating a stark contrast between the vibrant city above and the quieter world below. The sound of echoing footsteps and the distant rumble of trains formed a gritty yet atmospheric backdrop. As they navigated deeper into the station, they passed through a storage alcove often used by the homeless. Makeshift shelters and tents lined the walls, serving as a somber reminder of the city's inequalities. While other commuters hurried past with averted gazes or muttered dismissive remarks, Keanu kept to his usual routine. With Andy waiting patiently by his side, he moved from person to person, handing out small bills and coins. "Here you go," he said softly to an elderly woman curled under a tattered blanket. She looked up, her weathered face breaking into a grateful smile. "God bless you, young man," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Keanu nodded gently and moved on. He didn't do this for recognition or praise. Most people didn't even realize who he was. It was simply a small way for him to acknowledge the humanity of those society often overlooked. As they continued, Andy drew curious glances and smiles from the people they passed. The puppy's pure joy seemed to bring a moment of lightness to the otherwise somber atmosphere. Keanu reflected on the stark contrast between his life and the lives of those around him. The disparity weighed heavily on him. While his small acts of kindness couldn't solve systemic issues, he hoped they might brighten someone's day, even just for a moment. Near the end of the alcove, Keanu approached a familiar tent that was usually occupied by Max, a homeless man he'd often spoken with. Max was known for his cheerful demeanor and his constant companion, a small chihuahua named Button. But tonight something felt off. The area was eerily silent. Keanu called out softly, concern creeping into his voice, "Max? Are you there?" After a tense moment, the tent flap rustled and Max emerged. The sight made Keanu's heart sink. A nasty bruise marred Max's temple, and his haunted eyes told a story of recent trauma. "Oh hey Keanu," Max said, his voice barely above a whisper. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Keanu crouched to meet him at eye level as Max settled onto a small crate outside his tent. "Max, what happened? Are you okay?" Keanu's eyes darted around, noticing an absence that struck him like a blow. "Where's Button?" At the mention of his dog's name, Max's composure broke. His shoulders slumped, and he buried his face in his hands. When he looked up again, His eyes were brimming with tears. They took her, Keanu, Max choked out. Those bastards took my button. Keanu's brow furrowed, confusion and concern etched on his face. Who took her? What happened? Max took a shaky breath, his hands trembling as he reached into his pocket and pulled out an empty dog collar. The sight of it seemed to bring a fresh wave of pain. It was yesterday, Max began, his voice hollow. These thugs, they've been coming around for a while. They demand security fees, claim they own this territory. He spat out the words with bitter resentment. I couldn't pay, I never can, but usually, they just rough me up a bit and move on. Keanu listened intently, resting a comforting hand on Max's shoulder. Andy sat quietly beside him, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. But yesterday, Max's voice broke as he continued, Button tried to protect me. She's always been so brave, my little girl. When they started pushing me around, she barked at them. And then, he swallowed hard. She bit one of them on the ankle. Keanu closed his eyes, already dreading where the story was heading. They went crazy, Max said, his words rushing out now. One of them kicked her, hard. She yelped, and I tried to grab her, to protect her, but... His hand went to the bruise on his temple. One of them had a baseball bat. I don't remember much after that. When I woke up, I was back in my tent. The others here, they found me and brought me back. But Button... His voice trailed off as he looked down at the empty collar in his hands. I'm so sorry, Max, Keanu said softly, genuine anguish in his voice. Do you think, is there a chance she might still be alive? Max shook his head slowly. I don't think so. If she were, news would have traveled fast down here. If anyone had seen or heard about a little chihuahua, I'd know. It's been silent. And those guys, they're not the type to show mercy. Keanu's mind raced as he processed the story. Have you gone to the police? He asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew the answer. Max let out a bitter laugh. The police? They're just another version of those thugs. They'll ask for money to investigate. They don't care about us, Keanu. To them, we're just a nuisance, something to sweep under the rug. The weight of Max's words hung heavy in the air. Keanu felt a surge of anger at the injustice and a deep sadness for Max's loss. He looked down at Andy, who sat quietly beside him, and felt a renewed appreciation for the pup's presence. I'm truly sorry, Max, Keanu said, his voice filled with genuine empathy. Is there anything I can do to help? Max shook his head, a sad smile crossing his face. Just listening. That's more than most people do. You're a good man, Keanu. As they sat together in the dim light of the subway station, Keanu realized how much more complex and dangerous the lives of the forgotten could be. Button's fate was a stark reminder of the vulnerability of those living on society's margins and the cruelty lurking in the shadows of the city he called home. As Keanu stood there, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior, a quiet but undeniable shift began to occur around them. From the shadows of makeshift shelters and the crevices of the underground station, figures emerged, silent at first but resolute. The homeless community, often overlooked and dismissed, had come together, forming a protective circle around Keanu and Mac. Their presence was a powerful statement, strength in unity. The thugs' mocking sneers faltered as they realized the tables had turned. What was once a 3-against-2 standoff had transformed into a gathering of dozens, each member of the community bearing the marks of hardship but also an unyielding spirit. An older man with a gray beard and a voice weathered by years of struggle stepped forward. Keanu's been helping all of us here, every evening, he declared, his tone steady and unwavering. When no one else cared, he did. And we don't forget that. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Faces that had once seemed withdrawn now showed a fierce determination to stand up for the man who had shown them kindness. The lead thug, Bowie, glanced nervously at his companions, his fingers twitching around the necklace he had so arrogantly flaunted moments ago. You think this changes anything? He blustered, his voice lacking the bravado it had held earlier. It changes everything, Keanu said, his voice calm but charged with the weight of the moment. He took a step forward, his gaze unwavering. "You don't just face me anymore. You face all of us. Return the dogs and the necklace and you walk away. Or—" He let the unspoken threat hang in the air, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The thugs exchanged uncertain glances. They weren't prepared for this, a community they'd likely underestimated, standing together as one. The circle tightened, and the quiet resolve of the crowd made it clear there would be no easy escape. Max, emboldened by the support surrounding them, took a step closer to Keanu. "You heard him," he said, his voice steady. "Andy and Button." Now, the confrontation had shifted. It wasn't just about Keanu, Max, or even the stolen items anymore. It was a stand for justice, for dignity, and for the unspoken bonds that tie humanity together, no matter how frayed those ties might seem. "Now we stand up for him," murmured someone in the group, their words sparking a ripple of agreement among the crowd. Keanu felt an overwhelming wave of emotion, touched by the solidarity shown by this community he had barely known before tonight. "Do you even know who you're messing with?" the man shouted, gesturing at Keanu. "This isn't just some homeless bum. It's Keanu Reeves." The thugs, realizing the situation was slipping out of their control and shocked at offending a celebrity, tried to salvage their bravado. "That's right," Bowie declared, desperate to sound impressive, "we robbed Keanu Reeves. We're not just some petty criminals." But his boast fell flat. The united front of the community glaring back at him made the thugs nervous. They began backing away, their eyes darting around anxiously. Keanu stepped forward, his voice calm yet commanding. "It's over. Give back what you've stolen. Tell us where the dogs are, and we can end this without involving the authorities." For a brief moment it seemed like the thugs might comply. But then, in a desperate burst of energy, they tried to fight their way out. Big mistake. The community, fueled by righteous anger and a desire for justice, quickly overpowered them. Baseball bats were wrested away, and in a whirlwind of motion, the thugs found themselves pinned to the ground. As the situation came under control, the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. Police officers, drawn by the commotion, arrived swiftly. The thugs, now restrained, had no choice but to face the law. Keanu pointed to Bowie's neck, where his family heirloom necklace still hung. "That's mine," he said, his voice tight with emotion. An officer carefully removed it, taking photos for evidence before handing it back to its rightful owner. "Where are the dogs?" Keanu demanded. His voice held both anger and worry. "Where's Andy, the beagle, and the chihuahua?" Bowie smirked, his laugh harsh and devoid of humor. "We're not telling you anything," he spat. But the officers were thorough. During their search, one discovered a phone with incriminating messages. "Look at this," the officer said, holding the screen up for his colleague. The messages referenced a pet store called Pet Haven and mentioned dropping off a beagle there. Bowie's smirk faded, replaced by a look of panic. "Good luck finding them," he sneered. "The beagle's probably sold by now." His taunt confirmed their suspicions. Andy and Button had been trafficked, treated as mere commodities in an underground market. The revelation sent a jolt of urgency through Keanu and the officers. Officer Turner, the taller of the two, reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Turner. We need backup at 14th Street Union Square Station. 3 suspects are in custody, and we've got a lead on an animal trafficking operation." Turner's partner, Officer Bobby, turned to Keanu and Max. "We'll need official statements from both of you later," he said. "But for now, let's focus on getting those dogs back." Keanu nodded, relief mingling with anxiety. "Thank you," he said sincerely. The officers secured the thugs and prepared to move out. Turner's phone pinged. Judge Hernandez had approved the emergency warrant. "All right, people, let's move out," Turner called. When they arrived at Pet Haven, the store was dark, its closed sign hanging in the window. But a faint light glowed in the back. Turner called out, "This is the NYPD. We have a warrant to search these premises. Open the door." The door creaked open slowly, revealing a nervous-looking man. "What's this about?" he stammered. Turner held up his phone displaying the warrant. "We have reason to believe you're in possession of stolen animals." The man paled. I don't know what you're talking about. All our animals are legally sourced." Keanu stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "That beagle and chihuahua were stolen tonight. They belong to me and my friend." "Where are they?" Cornered, the man's protests weakened. Officers uncovered further evidence linking the store to trafficking. "Look," the man finally admitted, "I just buy from suppliers. I don't ask questions about where the animals come from." Max stepped forward, his voice filled with emotion. "You should ask questions. These aren't products. They're living beings with people who love them." The officers retrieved Andy and Button, freeing them from their cages. Andy leapt into Keanu's arms, licking his face as if to say, "We're safe now." Meanwhile, Max cradled Button close, tears streaming down his face. "You're free to go," Turner told them after the investigation concluded. "We'll need statements tomorrow, but for now, take these little ones home." As Keanu and Max walked back, their rescued dogs by their sides, the night felt different, brighter. Keanu, inspired by the homeless community's courage, resolved to do more for them. "Max," he said thoughtfully, "I can connect you to programs for housing and job training. You deserve a real chance." Max hesitated but finally smiled. "Thanks, Keanu. I'll give it a shot." Keanu handed Max a prepaid phone. "My assistant will call tomorrow. Promise me you'll answer?" "I promise," Max said, his voice full of hope. As Keanu boarded the train, Andy curled up at his feet, tail wagging. Keanu looked back at Max one last time, feeling a deep sense of connection. Tonight wasn't just about rescuing dogs. It was about rebuilding lives.